July 2025, Porsche's CEO Oliver Blume sends a memo to every single employee. One line stops them cold. Our business model, which has served us well for many decades, no longer works. This is Porsche, a company that survived recessions, oil crises, and wars. A company that earned 30,000 motorsport victories. A company whose cars hold their value like almost nothing else on Earth. Their CEO just admitted the whole thing is broken. Operating profit down 99% in 9 months. Share price down over 60% from its peak. Jobs being cut, the CEO being pushed out, furious. So what the hell happened? This is the story of what happens when you get so obsessed with where the market is going that you forget who you're actually selling to. Because it turns out ignoring your customers doesn't just hurt your sales. It can bring an entire empire to its knees. To understand the collapse, you need to understand what Porsche actually was. Not just a car company, a machine for making money. Porsche earned an estimated 18,000 profit per vehicle. Not Ferrari levels. Ferrari clears 136,000 per car. But for a brand at Porsche's volume, those margins were extraordinary. The formula was simple and it worked for decades. Build emotionally loaded, technically brilliant cars. Charge premium prices, keep supply tight, protect the badge. The 911 became one of the most recognizable shapes in automotive history. The Cayenne SUV, which purists hated, turned into a commercial juggernaut. Dealerships ranked among the highest for customer satisfaction in the US, year after year. Buyers came back. Came 2019, and Porsche decided to bet everything on a new direction. The Taycan, Porsche's first fully electric vehicle. 0-60 in 2.8 seconds. 22-minute charging from 5 to 80%. And built like a proper Porsche, not a tech gadget wearing a sports car costume. The motto, Soul Electrified. Reviews were intoxicating. Sales climbed fast. 20,000 units in 2020. Over 40,000 by 2023. It was closing in on the 911. Blume's vision was massive. 2025, half of all new Porsches would be electric. By 2030, more than 80%, operating margins of 15 to 17%, annual deliveries of 400,000 vehicles. The logic seems solid. Tesla went from $20 million in profit in 2019 to $13 billion by 2022. GM pledged $35 billion into EVs. Ford electrified the F-150. The entire industry was moving. But Porsche's push wasn't just about market trends. There was a bigger force behind it. Most people don't know this. Porsche and Volkswagen are deeply, almost confusingly intertwined. Volkswagen owns Porsche. Porsche holds a major stake in Volkswagen. They are inseparable. And Volkswagen had just come out of the worst scandal in automotive history. Dieselgate. Their reputation was destroyed. So in 2017, they unveiled a survival plan. Roadmap E, 50 billion euros into battery procurement. Full pivot to electric. Porsche wasn't just following the market. They were following orders from the top of a 300 billion conglomerate, trying to save its own skin. Then in 2022, to fund this transformation, Volkswagen took Porsche public. One of the largest IPOs in European history, valued at 78 billion euros. Investors poured in expecting EV leadership, high margins, and growth. IPO changed everything. Porsche was no longer just a car company. It was now answerable to shareholders every single quarter. Pressure to deliver began immediately. On paper, 2023 looked fine. Profit margins actually hit 18%, above target. But underneath, something was already wrong. The Taycan had all the specs. The speed, the technology, the Porsche badge. What it didn't have was the sound. For a certain kind of Porsche buyer, the kind who buys a 911, not a crossover, that sound isn't a feature. It's the whole point. Flat six scream on a mountain road. The feeling that the car is alive underneath you, that's what they paid for. Electric silence, no matter how fast, didn't replace it. Every time I'm next to a 911 or 718, I long for that sound. But Porsche could have worked through that. The real nightmare was what came next. Owning a Taycan became a horror story for a shocking number of customers. Door handles that wouldn't recognize you. CarPlay cutting out and blasting static. Backup cameras that barely worked. Maps that refused to load. That was the minor stuff. Battery shell damage, $5,500 just for inspection. Full battery replacement, up to $50,000. My 2020 Taycan has been an absolute nightmare. It was in the shop for 3 months. Within days of getting it back, the AC stopped working. I'm paying $2,000 a month for a car I can't drive. Over 27,000 Taycans were recalled for battery short circuit risk. Owners were told not to charge past 80%. A whistleblower claimed 60% of all delivered Taycans had battery issues causing replacements, damage, fires. And because local mechanics couldn't touch the technology, cars sat in dealerships for months while parts shipped from Germany. The depreciation was savage. A $200,000 Taycan Turbo S dropped to $70,000 in a few years. Nobody wanted to buy used ones because nobody knew how to fix them. Then in 2024, Porsche raised the Taycan's price by $9,000. Sales collapsed from 40,000 units in 2023 to just over 20,000, a 49% drop in 1 year. While the Taycan was imploding in the West, Porsche's most important growth market was quietly vanishing. China had been the engine of Porsche's expansion for years. Then in early 2025, deliveries dropped 42% year over year. Part of it was a slowing Chinese economy. Part of it was weakening luxury spending. The bigger story was the competition. BYD, NIO, Xiaomi, yes, the phone company, launched the SU7, a car with world-class software, strong performance, great build quality, and a starting price of around $42,000. Younger Chinese buyers didn't care about Stuttgart heritage. They wanted technology, intelligence, and value. The German badge was no longer the deciding factor. Porsche had no answer for this. Cars cost 5 times as much and had worse software. China was gone. Stack it all together and the picture is brutal. Revenue, down. Earnings, from 8.2 billion euros in 2023 to 3.6 billion euros. Profit margins, from 18% down to 10 to 12% and still falling. In the first 9 months of 2025 alone, operating profit fell from 4 billion euro to roughly 40 million euros. That's a 99% collapse. Porsche had committed 2.7 billion euro to new EV production facilities. Another 3.1 billion yen in total investment planned for 2025. All of that sitting on the balance sheet while sales fell. US tariffs added hundreds of millions more in costs. Company projected barely a positive revenue margin once those were included. 30,900 jobs announced for cuts by 2029. Then came the most humiliating line in a Porsche press release in living memory. The transition to electric vehicles will take longer than we assumed 5 years ago. Here's what makes this story more than just a business failure. Porsche didn't lose because EVs are bad. Tesla proved EVs can work. Porsche lost because they misunderstood who their customer was. Tesla created something entirely new. Tesla buyers wanted silent acceleration, software updates, and a tech identity. Nobody who bought a Model S was mourning the loss of engine noise. That was never the point. Porsche buyers were different. They bought into a feeling, the weight of the car, the sound, the heritage, the sense that you were driving something that had been refined across decades of motorsport and engineering obsession. Porsche spent billions trying to convince those customers that electric was better. They built charging networks. They optimized battery chemistry. Made the fastest electric sports car ever built. They just never asked if that's what their customers actually wanted. Ferrari, which barely dipped into EVs, watched from a safe distance. Demand for their combustion cars never wavered. The lesson was already there. Porsche missed the forest for the trees. They saw Tesla's numbers and assumed they could replicate the formula. But Tesla never tried to replace combustion emotion. Porsche did. And their customers punished them for it. Oliver Blume is stepping back from Porsche, refocusing on Volkswagen. Porsche is searching for a new CEO. The strategy is quietly reversing. Porsche is now looking at expansion of the product portfolio to include additional vehicle models with combustion engines or plug-in hybrids. Focus is shifting back to what's actually making them money. The 911, the combustion lineup, limited hybrids. But the 911's rising sales can't fill the hole left by the Taycan. Not yet, maybe not for years. The real question isn't whether Porsche survives. They will. The brand is too strong to disappear. The question is whether they can rebuild trust with the customers they ignored, and whether they can find a path forward in a market where Chinese brands are improving every year. Software has become a product differentiator. The definition of a luxury car is changing underneath everyone's feet. Heritage isn't enough anymore. Brand power isn't guaranteed, and the next generation of luxury performance will be shaped by technology investments that even the strongest companies are struggling to manage. Porsche built its identity over 75 years. They nearly burned it down in 5. The road back will be long.